What's up, guys? Welcome to gwhisky. My name is Jeff. Now, this is a channel where I offer my thoughts and opinions on a specific whiskey, and if you stick around at the end, I'll be giving it a score as well. That sounds interesting. Hit subscribe down below. And with that out of the way, why don't we jump into our review? Today, we're looking at the Fettercairn 16-year-old. Stick around. Alright, so we've got a very under-the-radar whiskey with us today. We're looking at a Fettercairn, but this one is not part of the regular core range. We've got the 16-year-old with us. This one is a special release, came out last year in 2020. Now, I'll be honest, Fettercairn is not a brand that I'm especially familiar with. In fact, this is the first bottle I've ever bought from them. Reception to their standard line is generally pretty mixed, although our 16 here has done pretty well with like critics, reviewers, bloggers, you know, my people. The key word there being most, certainly not all. I know in a recent VPub we had Roy or Aquavite coming down pretty hard on this bottle. He was not a fan of this stuff. Fair play. Roy definitely knows his stuff. I respect him a lot, but generally speaking, I'm much more of a fan of these, you know, sherry matured, wine matured whiskeys than he is. But yeah, it was kind of interesting seeing one of the more diplomatic YouTubers, and honestly one of my favorite whiskey tubers, being so put off by this bottle. Again, it is generally pretty well received, but apparently not everyone is on board with this one. Anyway, we do have an interesting production process with this one. Definitely not your standard production process. This one is made using chocolate malt, which is basically roasted barley. It's going to give you these roasted flavors, some coffee flavors, chocolate flavors, hence the name. Mostly made famous by the Glenmorangie Signet. Signet? Signet. In terms of cask maturation, we get started off in bourbon barrels, which of course is the industry standard. And then we get moved on to what I believe is a 2-year finish in both sherry and port barrels. So we've got chocolate malt matured in bourbon barrels, finished in sherry and port. Could be an interesting one. Why don't we hop into our review, see what our whiskey is all about, and in the meantime, if you could kindly leave a like down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. So for our specs, this one comes in at a very respectable 46.4%, which is nice to see. Unfortunately, I believe this one to be chill filtered. It's most certainly colored, so we got 1 out of 3 here. Alright, so you can check out our unnatural color to our whiskey here. For presentation, we've got the new look for Fettercairn, which I kind of like. I think it's very modern. I think it's got some pop. It's got some style. I like the color scheme. I like the bottle. So presentation score here is going to be 4 out of 5. It does say it's matured using chocolate malt and not a whole lot else. They're not too hung up on the details here. No blurb, no tasting notes, nothing like that. It does say first release 2020. I don't know if they're going to be rolling more out down the line, but yeah, I think it's a cool bottle. It's got a very clean look. I like it. Let's try our nose. Okay, sweet, thick, layered. You kind of get a little bit of everything in here. I'm getting some vanillas, some honeys from the bourbon, some dark fruits, some raisins, maybe a little bit of cinnamon from the sherry. We have some lighter strawberry notes from the port. We have leather, tobacco, caramel, a little bit of mocha in here. Definitely a lot going on. Now the palate. Nice mouthfeel, sweet, thick malt. Definitely some chocolate, some coffee in here. We have some cinnamon, some red fruits, some caramel, some rum raisin, blackcurrant jam, strawberry jam, oak, nuts, pepper, maybe some orange oil, and some leather. And now our finish. Alright. Roasted. There's definitely a roasted quality to this. So like roasted coffee, roasted nuts, salted caramel. Things get, again, more jammy with like raspberries, blackberries. I'm eating tobacco, dark chocolate, and more of that leather. This is very rich, very layered. Okay, so this is really interesting stuff. I picked this up totally blind. I'd never sampled it before. I bought it based on a few online reviews, and that's about it. And again, this is my first bottle of Fettercairn, so I really didn't know what to expect here. I was definitely expecting something a lot simpler than what I got. Fettercairn is owned by White and Mackay, so that's the brand of like Jura and Dalmore, so definitely not universally loved. So again, this really could have gone either way, but I'll tell you right off the bat, I do like this stuff. I think it's layered, I think it's got a lot of personality, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Honestly, there's a few flavors in here that should be disjointed but aren't. They actually work together. We'll start with the chocolate malt, which of course we're going to have like these roasted coffee notes in here. Of course chocolate, of course malt, and then we have the 3 casks, and each of those casks has left its mark. Oftentimes when whiskey's been finished in a fortified wine cask like port or sherry, those flavors might overwhelm the bourbon flavors. Not the case here. We do get a bit of those like woody notes, the vanillas and the honey shining through from the bourbon casks. And it's not just the casks that we get here. Behind all of these other elements, there's just a little hint of this kind of light, pretty Highland character. Now, it is subtle. This is definitely a cask-dominated whiskey, but we do get little notes of the distillate behind everything else. Of course, our port and our sherry are going to come through loud and clear here. The sherry with its darker, heavier fruity notes, and then our port with the lighter berry notes. It's all in here. There's even a little touch of funk in here, so honestly, it's pretty surprising that all these disparate elements managed to come together. Not only do they come together and find a balance, but they also manage to retain a lot of their individual characteristics. They don't just taste like they've been mushed together, to put it technically. Now, some of the criticism against this whiskey is that it tastes very colored. Yeah, I get that. Also that it's very engineered, and that's absolutely true. This is about as modern and engineered as they come. This is the opposite of a Springbank. It's not handmade, it's not craft. If anything, it's over-polished and overproduced. But personally speaking, I really like these flavors. I think they come together nicely, and you know, I don't always need the ruggedness of a Springbank or sort of like the singular craft flavors of an Edred Dower. I really don't mind some of the glossier stuff if I feel it's well done, and I think this one is, so I'm going to give this one an 89. I think it's delicious. One thing worth noting though is that I have a friend who's got a bottle of this, and his bottle is not as good as mine, and I have no idea why. This was a one-off 2020 release, so I'm not sure why there's a difference between bottles, but there is, and because of that, I can't really vouch for the consistency of this bottle, which probably should affect the score, so why don't we bring this down to an 88. Consistency is important. Anyway, yeah, stay away from this stuff if you're not a fan of like the modern engineered style of whiskey, because that's definitely what this one is. This one is much closer in spirit to something like a Dalmore than, you know, an Edred Dower. Nothing craft about it. It's colored, it's chill filtered, so be aware of that. But it does have a beautiful richness to it. It's got a unique production process, and it's got a wonderful character. It's got some great intensity, and I think if you like those roasted chocolate malt flavors, you'll get along just fine with this one. I haven't had a lot of chocolate malt whiskeys, but the ones that I have had, I've enjoyed because I like that roasted character. You might too. So yeah, it's good stuff. It is a 2020 limited edition, so I'm not sure how much of it's left out there in the wild, so if you see it and it sounds interesting to you, pick it up. So our value here is going to be okay. It's definitely more expensive than most 16-year-olds out there. I don't think it's over the top. I like this more than most other 16-year-olds, but again, it's not going to be for everyone. I enjoyed so much that I bought a backup bottle. I do think it's worth the money to try at least once, so yeah, check it out. Okay, that's it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to support the channel, please consider becoming a patron. As always, hit subscribe down below, click that little bell icon, and of course, smash the like. Now, I do want to hear from you. Have you tried our Fettercairn 16 here? What were your thoughts? Finally, down in the comments below, do let me know what you want to see me review next. I'll keep it in mind for my upcoming videos. Bye, guys.